So let's talk about mainstream country music and its right-wing politics. There's a couple of things I want to point out about this. First of all, for years we've been having the conversation as to what is real country. Now that's been a conversation that goes all the way back to Hank Williams Sr. days. But in the more recent years, there has been a movement of people wanting real country music. And they would go around and they would seek out artists that they found to be real. And a lot of times, those people would be classified as Americana, or those people would be classified as alternative country, or they would have a different label for it. But people would go out of their way, and for years I would have people come up to me and say, hey man, you really need to check out this guy, because he ain't like that crap coming out of Nashville. And they would always say, if you said, one of three names would come out of their mouth. Man, they ain't nothing like Jason Aldean. They ain't nothing like Luke Bryan. Ain't nothing like Florida Georgia Line. That would always be the first three names that would come out of those people's mouths in that kind of conversation. So man, go out of your way to go over here and listen to this person, because they're nothing like that crap coming out of Nashville. That's all watered down bubblegum shit. We like the outlaw stuff. We like the real stuff. Just since Jason Aldean put out his video for Try That in a Small Town, I've seen those same exact people calling him an outlaw and actually having the audacity to compare him to Merle Haggard and to Waylon Jennings. It's so funny to me how just a few weeks ago, before this conversation ever started, he would have been one of the first people that you would have named to talk about how bad you hate what's coming out of Nashville. But speaking of what's coming out of Nashville, if you'll notice, I've made this argument for years that the videos that they put on CMT and all these country stations, GAC, whatever they got now, the videos that they show of people living in the South, they never reflect true Southern culture at all. They just cash in on the stereotypes, and they cash in on all of the gimmicks and the stage props that they can use. I've made this argument for years that they'll have a bunch of underwear models and Barbie dolls all prancing around a swimming pool, or prancing around a pickup truck, or dancing on their boats, or they'll have them, out here. They're always dancing around something, right? That's what we've always seen. And anytime any of us has ever tried to make a music video that showed the dark side of Appalachia, they didn't let that get played in the mainstream. That never made it very far. As a matter of fact, when we tried to do things like that, we got told, you're putting down your town, you're insulting where you come from, you're focusing only on the bad. Why don't you focus on the good? Here's the truth of it. The reason why they keep putting out these watered down videos that aren't a true reflection of what really happens in this part of the world is because if they did that, it would show their right-wing politicians for the failures that they are. If you go back to the years of President Carter getting elected, the country artist and the Southern rock, as bad as I hate to use that phrase, those musicians back then making that music were talking about the things that were going on in real rural America. And that's what helped launch Jimmy Carter to the presidency. But they started watering it down, they started tampering it down, and anybody that actually showed what really happens in small town Appalachia, those people kept getting pushed further and further to the bottom, and they kept pushing up this false imagery to the top. Because that's all right-wing politics has to offer any of you, is culture wars and phony propaganda and phony bullshit like Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean's not from a small town. He's not lived the country life that people like Johnny Cash once wrote about. Used to, country music was a reflection of the people. Johnny Cash wrote the song Man in Black, and he said, I wear the black for the poor and the beaten down. That's what country music used to speak to. Jason Aldean is speaking to a different thing. He's speaking to the imagery of it. He's speaking to it's art imitating life instead of the other way around. When Johnny Cash sang about picking cotton, he had really did it. When these people back then wrote about living in poverty, they really did it. The hometown I came from, the poverty rate's 31%. They get mad at me if I make a video and point anything about that out and say, oh, you're putting a black eye on our town. Let's go over here and let's watch this phony bullshit video of these people dancing around in their underwear and looking like perfect 10 models. That's country music. And now Jason Aldean makes this video with all these racial undertones, and that's suddenly country music coming from the same people who 2 weeks ago would have cursed Jason Aldean for all he was worth. So your hypocrisy's showing, and yeah, your racism's showing, and I know it makes you mad when I say it. I know you can't stand for me to say those things, but you won't put the attention on the artists that are bringing attention to the problems, and they won't do it either. Because if they brought the attention if they played certain music videos and if they played certain songs that the real artists have written, they wouldn't be able to sell that, hey, we've got your best interest at heart. They couldn't sell that. So you all keep being distracted and keep supporting these people that makes these statements. When you do, it just goes to show what you are. Back when Morgan Wallen got caught saying the N-word on tape, people hated him too. They hated him before that. And then when he came out and said that, they ran out and bought his albums and said, the only reason we're doing it is because we're just sick and tired of cancel culture. Well, if you're sick and tired of cancel culture, why didn't you support the Dixie Chicks? Why didn't you get behind them? Why didn't you run out and buy their albums instead of burning them in the streets? You didn't, because it didn't fit your right-wing agenda. As long as Jason Aldean and anybody like him supports your right-wing agenda, you guys will call them outlaws and call them country music and blah, blah, blah. Because another thing too is mainstream Nashville realizes that if they let certain artists into the fold, that they wouldn't go along with that bullshit. There's a whole lot of artists out there who have rocked the boat, and Nashville won't touch them because we can't let that guy into town. He won't parrot our talking points. So you guys go ahead and call that country music if you want to. It's not. Never was, never will be in no world. It's a phony imagery of it. It's a cheap plastic. In the words of Graham Parsons, it's a dry plastic fuck, okay? So you guys buy into it if you want to, but I'll sit over here and I'll listen to the artists I choose to listen to, and you guys keep buying into that crap. And if Luke Bryan comes out tomorrow with a swastika on his chest, I can't wait to see how many outlaw country fans runs out and buys it and says, I'm not doing it because I support that. I'm just doing it because I'm tired of people getting canceled. You guys are a damn joke.